Thanks. How's it going? You guys awake still? Anyone have a score on the game? Do we know? What is it? 24-7. Detroit? Okay. I don't know. Is that good or bad? Okay. All right. It could be good for some, bad for others, right? I'm Julia. I'm one of the owners here, like Jeff kind of mentioned before. Just a little background on myself. I'm going to be talking about sports nutrition specifically. When I graduated college, I did an internship at Athletes Performance, which is now known as Exos. It's where a lot of the Major League Baseball players train, football players for the combine train. So I had the awesome opportunity to work there as an intern to start, where I was around all the professional athletes, and I got to see how they trained, and then as well as how they nourished their bodies, essentially. So Athletes Performance is an all-encompassing place where they have physical therapists, athletic trainers, they do their workouts there, they have a dietitian there, they have a full kitchen there, so the athletes go there and they're taken care of from the second they step in the door all the way through, and it takes care of all aspects of being in their peak physical shape. So while I was there, I loved working in the kitchen with the chef there. So every time I had extra time on my internship, I'd pop back there, ask them if they needed any help, and they started to train me on like the professional chef, what they learned in their like culinary school. So I learned how to chop vegetables like the professional way and start doing all that cooking. So I ended up going back there and I would help them prep all the time. So they ended up hiring me on part-time after that, or temporarily I should say, because we were coming up on the busy season there where they had all the MLB guys coming in to prep for spring training and all the combine guys coming at the same time. So they needed just an extra hand in the kitchen. So I was all in on it and got to start experiencing and working with the nutrition department there while I was in the kitchen. So my main job was cooking, but then we worked hand in hand with the registered dietitian there on each athlete would get an assessment from her. She would then send us all of their information of like exactly how much they needed to eat, of their calories, their protein, their fat, their carbs, all of that. So then the athlete would come and order from us, and we would pull their information, and then we would cook their food based on what they needed. So it was a really cool learning experience for me. One, to just start to get familiar with cooking a little and get better at cooking, but also to start to see how food can really impact our performance and really make a difference. I saw some of the people in the best shape, like coming in, they already looked like they were in incredible shape. And then now I could see them train for 8 weeks or 9 weeks or 12 weeks and see a massive change in that time, even though they came in what I considered tip-top shape. So what I learned there is that nutrition really can be such an asset for us as athletes, and I saw how much it impacted performance, and so it really was something that I wish I would have had when I was playing. Like I was like, man, if I would have known this when I was growing up, I could have been so much better at volleyball. Or it could have really helped me perform better. Who knows what kind of athlete I could have been. So part of this is my goal is to start educating kids earlier and more often about some of this stuff so that you can start implementing it earlier than I did. And hopefully that you'll see it impact your performance as well. So some of the topics we'll be covering are the basic guidelines, the foundation, some hydration essentials, and how to fuel for performance. So my biggest thing with nutrition for anyone, especially young girls, is that it should just be us learning about what foods we like, what foods do for our body, and how we feel our best. So in my world, no food is bad food, right? All food just has a purpose. So we just have to figure out what purpose that is and what that food does for our body. So macros. Well, the basic guidelines of this are macros, meal frequency, hydration, quality, and then competition, how we're gonna fuel when we compete. So it looks a little bit different than our average day. Macros, does anybody know what macros are? Has anyone ever heard that? Yeah, some of the moms get, yeah, I like it. Okay, any kids here ever heard what macros are? No? Okay, moms, let me hear it. What's one of the macros? Yell it out. Protein, carbs, and fat, okay? So every food in our world is made up of protein, carbs, or fat. So every food can be categorized in one of those categories, all right? So protein, what does protein do for our body? Helps us build muscle, okay? How many of you work out? How many girls do we have here? I can't see, it's kind of dark. Raise it high, be proud, loud and proud. You're already working out? All right, perfect. That is step one in your performance, okay? The protein, however, so step one, we go work out. When you go and work out, you're actually breaking down your muscle, okay? So we actually tear our muscle down, and then what happens is we consume protein, and protein goes back in and builds that muscle stronger. So most of us think that when we work out, that's when we get stronger. It's actually what we eat after that that it determines how much stronger or how well that muscle recovers. So it is, I think sometimes we get tricked into like, oh, we just have to show up to the gym and that's all it takes. That's just part of it. We also want to make sure that we're getting the food to help with that recovery so that muscle grows in the way we want to make sure that hard work pays off, right? If you're going in there working out, then you want to make sure that you get every ounce of muscle out of that. Carbohydrates, what do carbohydrates do? Say it louder, come on. Energy, like let's get some energy in here, right? So energy, it's a fuel source for us. It helps us, it's kind of what we burn when we're doing any type of especially high intensity exercise. So what are some foods that are carbohydrates? How would we categorize? Any of my, what? Pasta. Any of the young kids in here know? Aspen? Oh, let's see. What? Energy drinks, sure, that has carbs in it. Yep, that would hit. Gives you an extra boost of energy too with those that caffeine. Did your dad tell you that one? What? Bread, perfect. Okay. So and then now fat. That's the last one. What does fat do for us? Brain function. Okay, most people when they hear fat, they think like fat on your body, right? Fat on our body is different than fat in our diet. So when we consume fat, it doesn't turn into fat on our body. What fat really does for us is brain function, hormone function, and joint function. Okay, so it's actually very important if you think about that. It's a huge component of what we need. It's also an energy source as well that we can tap into. But all three of them we need to have in order to have a balanced diet. So what I want you as young players to start figuring out is like start to see foods and put them in different categories. So we talked about what some carb options are. What are some options for fat? What are some foods that are high fat? Nuts, perfect. Avocados, yes, a wonderful source. What was it? Pasta can have fat in it, but that actually would be more of a carbohydrate. So close, but if there's oil on the pasta, then yes, that would be your fat source. But I like that you tried. Okay, what else? Olive oil, okay? So all of these things are things that I want you guys to start as young athletes paying attention to. Like when I'm eating food, just start to try to categorize it, right? What's on my plate here? Let's see, what did anybody have for lunch? Anybody want to be a guinea pig? You guys too scared? Okay, grilled cheese. All right, so tell me, what's the bread on it? What category does that fall into? Carbs, okay. And then cheese, what category does that one fall into? It's a kind of a combo of protein and fat. So I would say anything that's higher fat would go into that category. So I would probably categorize it as fat with a little bit of protein. Good. Did you cook it in butter? All right, so there you go. Now you got another fat source. All right, so it was a pretty good option. Maybe we want to boost a little more protein in there, but now as you guys start to make your meals, I just want you to start thinking about that a little bit more. That way, when you go into your tournament days, you have an idea of like, okay, if I need protein and carbs, then I need to know what kind of snacks I can choose or what kind of foods I can choose that include that in it, okay? The meal frequency, for me, it's just more about figuring out, like making sure that you're staying fueled throughout the day as an athlete especially. So I'll get more specific on tournament day. Hydration, what do I mean when I say hydration? Water, okay, how much water do we need? Does anybody know?
8 cups. Your body weight?
8 cups, body weight, close, yep. I always say at minimum, half your body weight in ounces per day, and then any extra activity that you do, you probably want to add like 16 ounces or so. So the very minimum would be half your body weight in ounces. I would do your whole body weight. For athletes, your body weight in ounces is a really good marker for that, okay? Is hydration just water, or is there more to it? More to it. Good guess. You're like, it seems like there's more to it. Safe answer. Yes. Good job. Yes, there's more to it. Thank you. I'll give you your $5 later for participating. There's more to it, right? There's our electrolytes as well. Okay. So how many of you players have ever felt in a match, like maybe when you guys have those back-to-back matches, you have to play 2 in a row, and afterward you're starting to kind of feel like you're hitting a wall, or you're getting really tired, or you're feeling like a headache later in the day. Anyone ever experienced that? Okay, I have. Look, yeah, see? Okay, sometimes we can hydrate with water, but then we really need our electrolytes, which is like sodium, chloride, potassium, which some of that means nothing to you, right? Salt is the big thing. Potassium you'll find in like bananas, stuff like that. So it's really about getting some of the vitamins and minerals that help keep us hydrated. So I always recommend, for me, the easiest thing is like hydration packets, and I'll kind of go over some of the good, better, best options of that here in a second. But most of you are probably most familiar with like Gatorade, right, as a hydration source. So they include some of that sodium, potassium, chloride to help keep you hydrated. The only thing that I want to challenge people to start to look at is the sugar content in that as well. So that's where you'll see I put together some good, better, best options for you. Because now as I go after hydration into quality, the next piece for me is always the quality of what we're eating. So remember I said at the beginning, there's no bad foods, right? Why do you think I say that? Anybody? Has anybody ever eaten something that has like been a bad food, and then you're like feel guilty and shame and like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have had that? And yes, I like that. Same. Look, all the ladies in the back. So to me, there shouldn't be shame around food. There should be no shame around food. We want food. We just want to understand food and what it does for our bodies, especially with young women. My goal is that they understand food and what it does for their bodies. There's no such thing as bad food. Okay, I say there's food for my body, and then there's food for my soul. So there's a difference there, right? There's the food for my body is when I'm like, all right, I know I need to perform. I know this is really good for me. I know maybe it's not my favorite thing to eat, but I know that this is doing really great things for my body. And then there's other things like Dennis handed me like the most amazing treat, which by the way, in case you don't know, Dennis always has the best treats. Before we started this, probably to help calm me down so I wasn't too nervous, but and it was delicious, and that is more food for my soul. And it tasted good. It was actually pretty good ingredients. And so it's one of those things where as long as I understand what the food is that I'm eating and I understand its purpose, usually I can make better choices too. So whenever it comes to food for my soul, I try to look at, okay, why do I want this, or what am I, how much of this am I having, what is the quality of the ingredients? It doesn't mean that I stay away. Most people think I never eat dessert ever, or I never have any bad food ever, and it's not the truth at all. I have dessert every single day. I love dessert. I'll never stop eating dessert. I just have a better understanding of how much, and I choose wisely. I make sure it's something that I love. If I'm going to have it and I know that it's not necessarily going to fuel my body, but it's going to fuel my soul, then I make sure I love it and it's worth it, and I don't feel bad about it at all. I enjoy it. I eat every bite, and then I move along with my day. So that's kind of the goal that I want, and that's what I want to preach to these girls and to anybody really, is that we're in control of those choices, and we can make great choices, and you can still have foods that maybe don't fuel your performance, but they fuel your soul, and they make you feel good, and they make you enjoy life, right? Because that's, to me, what food is about. I love food. I'll always enjoy food, and it's a thing that brings us all together in different ways. And so we shouldn't ever eliminate things, or we shouldn't ever say this is bad and you can't have this or you can't have that. It's just food falls into different categories, and we just need to understand what category it falls into. What was it, Dennis? I didn't eat. It's like a dark chocolate coconut. Trader Joe's, yeah.
Coconut cup with sea salt.
It was delicious. So, and it was fresh out of the freezer, so it had a nice little crunch to it. It was like, I'm ready for, he might have to hand out favors tonight. Like, it's your party favor tonight. So yeah, we'll send it out. I'll get you the info. I know a guy. Competition. So on competition day, now that I understand, the different types of foods, there's food for my body and food for my soul. Competition day, what types of foods do I want to have on that day? Protein, yes. Why do I want protein? To help recover that muscle, right? We're working hard out there on the court. We're hustling, we're jumping a million times, maybe we're diving a million times. Like, we're putting a lot of energy out there. So we'll definitely need protein to help replenish some of that muscle that we tore down. What else? Carbs, yes. Why do we need carbs? Yeah, we need that energy. Like, we need to be able to dive 1,000 times and jump 1,000 times and do it as well as we can on the 1,000th jump as we did, as on the first jump, right? So we need carbs as well. So those are the main two on competition day. Fat is always important still, but we really want to prioritize our protein and carbs. Are we going to have more like food for our body or more like food for our soul on competition day? Food for our body, right? So now it's like, okay, I know I want to perform my best, so now I'm going to prioritize these foods that I know, like maybe they're not super exciting, or maybe they're not, like dark chocolate coconut sea salt cups, but it's going to help me perform my best, and that's what I'm prioritizing today. And then, when competition's over, then I might go get my ice cream, or I might go get my sea salt cup, okay? Can you click to the next? Well, I need the next slide, sorry. I'm like the super technological one here. As you can tell, I'm like, don't know how to work the PowerPoint slide and don't know how to work my microphone. So foundation, we kind of went through that. I always want you guys to look at, what they are, what they do, and what foods fit into that category. So all of you players that are here, and even parents, what I want to challenge you to do after this is to now, as you eat meals, kind of categorize it and look and see, okay, do I have representation from all of these food groups? Or do I just have carbs and fat? Or I just have protein and fat? Or do I just have protein and carbs? Or do I just have carbs? Start looking at your meals as you put them together, and I want to challenge you to maybe look at your plate and try to make sure it's a little bit more complete with that, okay? Hydration we talked about. So when we go into hydration, water is the obviously primary we talked about. We want about 50% of our body weight in ounces per day at minimum. The things that we talked about with hydration. So for me, this is like an elevated step. It's extra, it's a bonus. It's not like the carbs, protein, and fat is like the staple. That is like the every single day part of our life. Hydration is now going to be an added element. It's really going to come into factor when we're competing. So a good option is Gatorade. Like I said, it has all the things that you need in it. However, it is pretty high in sugar. It does have some artificial flavors in it. So if we're looking at quality of food, it's a good option. It's not your best option. A better option would be like Body Armor. So Body Armor has a little bit less sugar in it. It has a little bit more of the vitamins and minerals that we need, but it might be an easier sell if you have picky kids. I don't know what that's like at all, right? Are any of you guys picky here? Picky eaters, a little bit, okay? So to me, it's better to have Gatorade than no hydration at all, right? It's better to have Body Armor than no hydration at all. The best source that I've found is Element salt packets. It's very clean ingredient. You just add it to water. It's super simple. It does have a little salty taste because there is salt in it, but it's one of the best options for you as far as performance goes. So players, try it out. If you've had Gatorade before and you already know what you like, then maybe try Body Armor. If you've tried Body Armor and kind of know what you like, then maybe one time try the Element packet or try a hydration packet. Try something a little bit different and see how you feel. Like branch out a little bit and try some new things. And then the next one. So for performance, the tournament day actually starts like the day before, really, when you're trying to fuel for your performance. What I like to see is like the day before, getting at least 3 of those balanced meals. And we talked about the balance is the protein, carbs, and fat in all of those. We want to make sure that we're getting that, and we're making sure we're pre-hydrating, right? So we're getting at least 50% of our body weight in ounces, maybe adding one of those hydration packets on that day so that as we go into our tournament day, our body's prepped, we have great carb storage, we're ready to go, okay? Tournament morning, always eat breakfast. So even if you're the 8 o'clock match and it's really hard for you to get up and get breakfast, I always say to my team, it's the same as like if you forget your shoes, it's the same as forgetting to eat breakfast or not eating breakfast, right? It's that important for your fuel for that day. You cannot show up as your best self and your best player without that energy to be able and that fuel to go into that 8 o'clock match and do your best. So think of it in that same way. Like, you're never going to forget your shoes at home, right? And if you do, you're not probably going to play that day, or you're not going to play very well in socks, right? It's the same idea. Without breakfast, without that fuel before you go, you're not going to play your best. You won't be able to give your best. You won't have the same mental clarity. There's a lot that you will lose by not giving yourself something that morning. So, and again, it should be one of those balanced meals with a protein, carb, and fat present. In between, it's a little bit different, right? Our schedule is always a little different every day. So we should be hydrating throughout the whole day, adding electrolytes if we can. And then depending on if you have like 2 matches in a row, what you eat before that might look a little different than if you have like a match and then a break, right? So throughout the day, I'm always pushing carbs and protein, hydration. That's really our big priorities. So fruit is a great option, fruit leather, like even dried fruit, veggies, peanut butter, those like energy balls that all of them like is a good option. Any type of carbs and protein combo is your best bet as far as the in-between. And then after the tournament, we want to make sure, right, we did all of that hard work. We want to make sure we recover from that. So recovery, when I'm looking at that, I'm always looking at like a 1-to-2 or a 1-to-3 ratio. So this gets a little bit more specific. So with all the other stuff, it's very general. This gets a little more specific. So what I mean by a 1-to-2 or a 1-to-3 ratio is if I have, for every 1 gram of protein that I have, I want at least 2 or 3 grams of carbs as well to replenish everything that I lost that day. So the easiest thing for me is usually like a protein shake of some sort. So if I have 20 grams of protein, who's good at math? If I have 20 grams of protein and I want to double that, how many carbs should I have? 40, good. Okay, now if I want to triple that, how many carbs should I have? 60, right? So 20, 40, you could have 160, that's fine. You work really hard, I've seen you. You're hustling all around that court. So you can have 160. But so a 1-to-3 ratio would be if I have 20 grams of protein, then now I have 60 grams of carbs, okay? So the easiest way for me to do that is I usually do, I like a cherry juice. It's good for muscle recovery and all of that. So I'll do cherry juice. So sometimes I'll do 4 ounces, sometimes I'll do 6 ounces, sometimes I'll do 8 ounces, and I'll mix that with like a vanilla or a chocolate protein, and it's a great recovery option. Chocolate milk's a great recovery option. It's very simple, and the macros end up being about a 1-to-2 ratio just by default. So it's a really good option afterward. Peanut butter and banana or peanut butter and honey sandwich is a pretty good option after as well. So there's a lot of ways that you can find that 1-to-2 or 1-to-3 ratio, but I always recommend having that for your post competition, even after practice, and just see how much you recover or how much better you feel the next day. I know most of you guys are young, so you probably still feel pretty good. But what I've learned is that I didn't realize how bad I felt until I knew what good felt like. So if you're always done it the same way, you're like, oh, I feel fine, there's no difference. Until you start to now really fuel yourself appropriately and really give yourself what you need. So once I started doing like a recovery drink after all of my workouts, then I was like, oh wow, I feel way better the next day. I'm not as sore. I can go a little bit harder in my workout again the next day. I have a little more energy. So So try it out and just start, challenging yourself on at least one of these things. So maybe it's just starting to get more balanced meals. Maybe that's your challenge this next month. Maybe it's adding in the post-workout recovery or the post-competition recovery and now seeing how that makes you feel. So it doesn't mean that you need to change and like uproot your whole entire life in one day. The goal of this is just to start that education process so that now you just make some more mindful choices. So we can't do better until we know better. So now what I want is for you to choose something to focus on and implement that into now your career and see how much that changes things. The last thing I'll leave you with is my whole goal is that now as athletes, you start to kind of get an idea of what fuel looks like and what it should look like. Try a new vegetable or a fruit. If you're not a vegetable or fruit person, try new stuff. Put yourself out there. You never know what you'll like until you try it. So, yeah, I'm like, I'll do a megaphone over here. So really this next month, I want you to just prioritize protein and add a fruit and vegetable. I'm talking to you guys. And then try some electrolyte packets or try some different things. If you already have a pretty balanced diet in what you're doing, then maybe try the hydration part. Just put yourself out there a little bit, okay? Pay a little bit more attention to what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then just understand what food does for you and how you can kind of categorize it, okay? Any questions? None? Not even from you guys over here? They're like, please stop talking. My mom's going to make me try all these new things. I will have a link to some of the products that are like my tried and true, like the things I recommend, best quality with all of the years that I've tried all the different types of protein powders and all the different supplement type things, different snacks, all of that. I will have a link to that in the parent portal. And then there will also be some different ideas and options. So if you're not sure where to start, it can be kind of a starting point for like how to put a meal together, or here's a really great option for a breakfast on competition day, just so that can kind of get the ball rolling and you can try some new things. But my challenge to you players is try new foods and put yourself out there a little bit this next month. All right, I'll turn it over.
So the big thing I also want to get across to you guys is the one thing that we didn't touch on is our athletic career. So I was fortunate enough to play Major League Baseball, and Julia played Division I volleyball. And we had both of our parents were, my dad has a PhD in exercise science, and her dad and two brothers are physical therapists. And obviously she has her degree in kinesiology and the whole chef thing. And so I think the big message that we want to send to you guys is we understand what it takes to get to the highest level. And even maybe if you don't have a daughter that wants to get to the highest level, everything you learn within this environment will help you succeed in life. Because all I ever wanted to do was play baseball. All I still want to do is play baseball. And I don't know how I would have ever succeeded in life if I did not have baseball in my world. And the coaches and my parents and that community really made me what I am. And I think Julia can share that same sentiment. And everybody asks us, well, you got 2 businesses, you have 4 kids, how do you do it all? We surround ourselves with amazing people. Our support staff, Dennis, Jen, everybody else that we have here and that we've brought on, we try and find people that are great people that hopefully know more than us too, right? You want to surround yourself with people that know more than you and can add value, and we really target those type of people. So the message is that we want to help your daughter succeed, yes, in volleyball, but even more so in life. And we want to give her all the tools, as many tools, and we want to provide that here. And it's why we push so hard to build this out the way we are, and why we want to provide all of this information for you guys. The thing I want to leave you guys, a couple things I want to leave you guys with, just championship behaviors. And you can look at this like sport, or you can look at this as life. You have to prepare to win. I think the biggest mistake athletes make is they just show up to practice. And they rely on a coach to tell them what to do. And if that's all you're doing, it's going to be really tough to be successful consistently. You've got to put in work outside of here. You've got to put an importance on the nutrition. You have to try and find ways to get better beyond the 2 or 3 practices that you have. Because however hard you think you're working, I guarantee somebody's out there working way harder. And if you don't believe me, go listen to Kobe Bryant. Because his regiment was insane, but it's why he was so good. And you got to prepare, so you have to have a plan, right? You can't just go and show up and just do things. You got to have a plan, and that's why we lay out all of our philosophy and methodology of how we train. We want to expose, these players to that information so you really understand and can take ownership. Like, okay, what do I have to do with my body? What skills do I need? Okay, I need to hit. All right, well then I better work on my approach, my timing, my vision. I better know where I'm looking. I better know when to start my approach. And if you don't know, you better ask a coach. That's all within your preparation. Having a plan for my tournament meals. Girls, what would be a great idea is if you said, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna take care of my food. Can you help me? Right? Take some ownership rather than, hey, where's my peanut butter and jelly? So my kids are always yelling, where's my food? Help them out a little bit. They do a lot. Leading by example. For me, the best way to be a leader is leading by example. The stuff that we preach is stuff that we try and live out every day. And we're not perfect. We're all humans, right? We make mistakes. We mess up. I tell Julia I've made 2 mistakes in my life, and that's it. Right?
I disagree.
But we have to lead by example, and so we want to teach these girls how to be leaders. It's not just about telling your teammates what to do, it's about being that example. Right? When you're the one bringing your snacks, the healthy snacks to the tournaments, and they look like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Right? And then they see you perform really well, they're going to want to follow that. Or you're the one busting your butt and winning the conditioning drills, or you're always working hard and you're always engaged to what the coach is saying and you're ready to act. Like all of those things, you're leading by example, and that's super, super important. I think the biggest failure, both my parents are teachers, so I can say this. I think the biggest failure of education is that we are not taught how to effectively communicate with one another. That's a skill that you have to work on. And it's really hard because we have all these emotions and everything's going on and it's all busy, and then I don't know if you guys feel this way, but maybe you said something you shouldn't have, or you reacted a way you shouldn't have. And so what we will always want to do for you guys is be the example in terms of communication, and we're always open to having hard conversations. You're frustrated about something didn't go your way, let's talk. But let's go into that trying to find a solution, right? So we want to be that example for you guys and for these girls, because you're always trying to find solutions. And as you go back to some of the recruiting things that Jen was talking about, what coaches care, they care about your talent, sure. But when you get older and you make your way up in the levels, that talent kind of levels out. And now it becomes, who is making their teammates better? Is it that player that's like throwing their stuff down or barking at their teammates and yelling at them if they're not doing something? Or is it that teammate that's encouraging, like, let's go, come on, we got this. Okay, that effective communication is a component to being a champion. And really the big thing that we've been talking a lot about, and I want you girls to think about this. Think about the matches you've played this season so far. If you and your teammates were ready to act every contact, right? You're fully engaged to take action every contact. Would your matches look different? Would they look different? In a good way or a bad way? Think about that. That's my challenge to you guys for the rest of the season. When you're in practice, you train it. And when you're in games, if you're just ready to take action and you're aggressive and you commit to that, chances are things are going to happen really well. Like, it's going to be a good result. And so champions are always ready to act. And if you're Michael Jordan, like, why am I going to worry about a shot I've never taken? Right? Like, it's that mindset. But as athletes, what happens is we become fearful of an outcome. Like, I don't want to mess up, or I gotta play well, or we gotta beat this team, or we gotta. Just be ready to act. That's it. And embracing feedback. Again, kind of, I touched on that a little bit, but like, we embrace feedback. We know we're not perfect. We know we're going to make mistakes. Our goal is to try and make this a tremendous experience for you guys, and we are going to fail for some people. It's going to happen. We don't want that. What we hope we can do is we can understand your perspective and work collaboratively to improve things or find common ground. That's what our hope is. So I really want you guys to understand that and have that takeaway. Our door, and I'm sure you know Dennis's door is always open. But if there's something that seriously needs to be talked about, we are here. And I want to leave you with just questions asked I have for players and parents. You guys have some homework, okay? For players, I'll cover you first. What actions can I take to get better today? Okay? You're going to have frustrations during the season, and the only way to get rid of negative, destructive thoughts is to replace them with positive thoughts. So when you start to get frustrated, you can ask yourself, what actions can I take to get better, regardless of the outcome? And I talked about Kobe Bryant, but he said something that I wish I would have heard when I was playing. And he said, if I win, what am I going to do the next day? Get better. If I lose, what am I going to do the next day? Get better. So why are we so focused on the wins and losses? Do we want to win? You're dang right. I want to win at everything. I don't care what we're doing. And she knows that. That's why she doesn't compete with me, because I'm crazy.
Actually, I win every time we compete, but it's fine.
But focusing on what you can do to get better, that's where we want you to channel your focus. What problems can I solve today? And that's why we're here. So if you have problems and you're experiencing them, and you don't ask your coaches or don't ask somebody how to work through those and how to overcome those, you're doing yourself a disservice. And the last one, what value can I add today? So when you guys enter into practice or matches, think about that. What value am I going to add today? If you guys ask yourself those 3 questions and you really try to commit to finding solutions and answers to those, chances are you're going to have a productive day. Parents, you guys are a key to this. How do I know this? Because one day I was driving with my daughter, and she was getting really frustrated, and she starts going, And I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you making that noise? A few weeks later, I was doing something, I got frustrated, and I went, And I was like, oh my gosh. I felt like an idiot. But I realized like how much I impact their world and what they do. And so as parents, when you watch your kids, it can be nerve-wracking. You can get emotional. You watch them and maybe they struggle, or maybe they're not getting playing time in a certain match. And it eats at you. I get that. We have 4 kids. I get that. But what you can do is you can ask yourself questions. How can I help my daughter get better today? What can I do? Who can I be, right? So if she's frustrated on the car ride home, what do you guys talk about? Do you get frustrated with her? Do you help her work through that? Can you help her solve some problems, right? She has problems. Help her navigate that. You don't have to fix it for her, but help her navigate that. And what value can you add today? I think if we can all ask ourselves those three things each day, and we have those daily checks, I think that things become really productive. And that doesn't mean there's not going to be struggles. That doesn't mean there's not going to be issues. But at least it puts us in a good position to be able to work together. Because we saw a big disparity when we were kind of on the outside before we took this over. And when you look at the parent-player-coach relationship, it can be very much at odds, right? Like, why is the coach doing that? Why? She doesn't like my daughter. Why am I not playing? And the coach is like, well, why aren't they listening? And all of these things can occur. And we wanted to strip the walls and be able to have a collaboration. And that's why we want to provide so much information of where our head's at and our perspective, because again, going back, this is a lot of time and money that you guys invest. And we want to kind of lay out what that journey likes when you're at Sky. What is that journey like when you're at Sky? Because you guys have a lot of options. You really do. And we want you to understand what our goal is, kind of the behind the scenes of what we want to help your daughter be and become, and hopefully open the doors, open the lines of communication. Does that make sense?
Hopefully you guys will see that everything that we're trying to do is like, we want to help them be their best in volleyball, but we know that so much of this is going to transfer into who they become as adults. And so we want to give them a great foundation. We want to help you. We want to be a part of that process with you to build the foundation of these young women so they can go out and conquer the world. Like that's the goal. I want every girl to come out of here with confidence, feeling like she can handle anything that's thrown her way. She can go across the country to a school maybe, and she's going to be okay because she is equipped with communication skills. She's equipped with confidence. She's been through situations that she's had to manage and work through. She has a great idea of the good foods to eat and kind of can put her own meals together. Like, our goal is that we are working with you to create confident, amazing young women and send them out into the world. So that we wanted to lay out that vision for you guys, and so that you can kind of understand where we're coming from and why we wanted to take this whole project on and why we want to be a part of this is because I saw how it impacted my life and how it was the best experience I ever had playing college volleyball, ever. If I could play again for 4 years, if I could get eligibility back somehow, I would do it. I would probably not play Division I anymore because I'm a little rusty and a little beat up, but I would still try. So that's how much that experience meant to me and how much it shaped who I am and showed me that I can really handle anything that's thrown at me, even on the days where sometimes I feel like I can't maybe. I always go back to, I've been through harder things before, or I've been through hard things, I can handle hard things, and I have people around me that can help me manage that too. So that's part of why we did this. That's what we hope you guys want for your daughters, and that's why you're with us. And sometimes it's hard to get that message across, so for us it felt like being able to kind of have a presentation and explain some of what we're doing and why we're doing it would help for you guys to kind of understand where we're coming from as well, and that we can answer any questions that you have.
Does anybody have any questions? We answered it all? Man.
Look at us.
Well, thank you. Thank you guys for taking your time. I know everybody's got busy lives, but we are here for you guys. If any questions pop up, let us know. You guys should have access to the parent portal. We have a lot of information. All the stuff that we presented here will be on there. If there's something that's not, let us know, but we will continue to build that out.
Thank you
Enjoy
guys
your night.
for coming.